Cameron Diaz just came out and said we need to normalize couples sleeping not only in separate bedrooms, but in separate homes. And everyone has been dragging her for this. The only defense I want to make of Cameron Diaz here is that aristocrats have been doing this forever. Aristocrats have been sleeping in separate bedrooms forever. The royal family sleeps in separate bedrooms. The Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip would sleep in separate bedrooms. There's something to that. I think where the disconnect is here is that people sleeping in separate homes is a little bit clinical. I'm reminded of a line from Robert Frost, which is from a poem, Departmental. The line is, it couldn't be called ungentle, but how thoroughly departmental. And what this comes from, I suspect, is not an old aristocratic sense that we want to have our proper spaces and, be together in this very well-ordered, high-class kind of schedule. But it comes from a demand for individualism. It actually comes from totally the opposite. The old aristocratic order for sleeping and behavior and living came from the notion that we don't have really very much privacy, that everything is sort of public, and we don't have a ton of individualism that we express however we please, but we have duty and we have honor and we have to behave in a certain proper way. We have to wear certain clothing and eat dinner at a certain time and behave in a certain way with members of the opposite sex, up to and including our spouse. What Cameron Diaz is talking about here is expressive individualism, which is I want my own space, I want my own thing, and maybe my husband can come and visit me when it's convenient for me. That probably not a great idea. Separate bedrooms can be nice because our spouses always steal the sheets. But if one had to choose, I think it's probably good to cuddle up next to your honey and tamp down the individualism that threatens to destroy our civilization. Right now, go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Are you traveling for Christmas? If so, Pure Talk has you covered because they just added international roaming to over 30 countries. That's right. Whether you are making calls on a beach in the Bahamas, on the steps of Buckingham Palace, or at your villa in Santorini, you can dial away. Here's the best part. No rate increase. Pure Talk still saves the average family almost $1,000 a year with plans starting at just $20 a month. Pure Talk is the gift that keeps on giving. They put you on America's most dependable 5G network. The coverage is second to none. Stop dragging your feet. Switch to Pure Talk, a veteran-owned wireless company with simply the best U.S. customer service team. Now, with international roaming to over 30 countries, go to puretalk.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, to make the switch. You will also save an additional 50% off your first month. That is puretalk.com/Knowles, K-N-W-L-E-S, to start saving on wireless today. Pure Talk is simply smarter wireless. Last week, a staffer for some Democrat senator was caught filming. I think I'm the only show in America that did not post screenshots of this in his show or on his Twitter page. No one needs to see the screenshots, but it was pretty gross. And the staffer then said that he was being persecuted for who he loves. Of course, he was not being persecuted for who he loves. I'm not quite sure that what he was doing in that video would be described as love. He was certainly being persecuted for how he loves, because that isn't love. And if he's trying to love, he's doing it the wrong way and definitely doing it in the wrong place. Where he loves, I guess, is another issue, namely the Senate Judiciary Hearing Room. So just a week after that, turns out there is another congressional sex tape involving a couple of fellas. This one apparently circulated on Snapchat last year, but for those of us who are not in those circles, we're only finding out about it now, conveniently after this other sex tape. This is from the story of a user going by Adam J. Recordings of this were viewed by Semaphore and mercifully not by all of us. But Semaphore says that the videos featured a man inside a house office building doing something alone. This is a family show. I'm going to try to clean it up. He was doing what Woody Allen referred to as sleeping with someone you love. And then there was also another one with a dude, with two men, engaged in something unfortunate. The participants' faces are not visible in any of this material. And then on top of that, a slightly different but still related scandal. Jill Biden's press secretary, Michael LaRosa, was just forced out of the White House after he apparently tried to take gay dates to his room on a secure floor of the hotel where the president was staying during a NATO summit in Madrid. So when we say dates, we're not talking about this is a man who had been cultivating some sort of relationship over some weeks and months. No, it was a guy who like went on an app or something or met a guy at a bar. And this press secretary for the First Lady of the United States brings some random dude back to the secured floor where the president of the United States is staying to go engage in weird stuff that apparently happens in places other than the U.S. Capitol. I am calling for a complete and total shutdown of homosexual political staffers with iPhones until we figure out what the hell is going on. Okay, I am a complete and total shutdown. We should not be reading this many headlines within the span of 2 weeks at very high levels of the government. That is really weird, man. What is driving this? This is completely insane behavior. Let's start with the most anodyne of the behaviors. This dude working for Jill Biden who decides it's a smart idea during a NATO summit. You're there working for the First Lady, you're with the president, you're with the entire Secret Service, and you decide it's a good idea to pick up some random dude in a foreign country and go back and do creepy, weird stuff in your hotel room on a floor with the president. What kind of insanity would have to have taken over your mind and soul to convince you that was a good idea? You're going to give up a promising political career with one of the most enviable jobs in politics. You're working right there for the first family in the White House, and you give that up to do weird, creepy sex stuff with some rando Spaniard. What has to take over your mind? You've got a job in the U.S. Capitol working for a member of the House of Representatives or a senator, and you decide it's a really good idea to not only engage in creepy actions that would obviously be cause for immediate termination and actions which are in themselves extremely humiliating, but you're going to film it and send it around, and you think that's going to be fine. No one's going to trace it back to you, even though you're on camera committing the actions. The guy who was working for the Democrat senator, he posted all sorts of weird, creepy sex stuff all over his social media, not only after he was hired, even before he was hired, he somehow still got the job. What is taking over these people's minds to convince them to do something not only that is gross and immoral, but that is just so stupid, that's so profoundly foolish, and that is guaranteed in the long run to lose you your job and career and to humiliate you at the national level? I'll give you the answer. I know exactly what it is. We've been talking about it for 2 weeks. It's porn. That's what's doing it to these people. That is what is melting these people's brains. And the reason I know that is because I read the mailbag. The reason I know that is I read surveys and statistics on porn usage, which is 90% plus among men, because I read the statistics that show that the average age or the median age of first exposure to porn is something like 11. And then I read the mailbag and I hear from people, not only the libs who brag about how addicted to porn they are, but even conservatives who say I've been struggling with this since I was a kid or a teenager. And it's really awful and I keep trying to fix it and I can't. Most people are addicted to this stuff, at least among men. I hope not among women, but even the rates apparently of viewership among women have gone up. And it melts people's brains. It warps their perception of reality. It, like any drug, is just totally warping their risk analysis. Like a crackhead who's trying to score, they totally ignore risk. They engage in reckless, dangerous behavior that almost always redounds to their disadvantage. And they're literally filming porn in this case, right? In the case of these two dudes, the Senate guy and the congressional guy, they were, the reason I know porn is at the heart of this is they weren't just engaging in creepy sex acts in the Capitol, they were producing pornography. And then they were disseminating that to other people. So it's not even that this was just something they wanted to keep for their own posterity, a little memento of their romp at the Capitol. Part of whatever was driving them was the fact that they would be viewed by other people on a screen. How did this dude in NATO, how did this Jill Biden press secretary meet that random guy? Maybe they met at a bar, it could be. Statistically, though, what's most likely is they did it on one of these swipe apps. It's a major problem, okay? Because it is causing people to become enslaved to one particular desire. You can easily become enslaved to any vice and sin. If you're a booze hound and you drink out of moderation, what happens? You think you're really free. You think you're really liberated. You can do whatever you want. But in the moment that you break those bounds of moderation, the moment that you engage in mortal sin and cultivate that vice, what happens? You become a slave. You become owned by that sin. You become a slave to booze. Or you could become a slave to drugs, or you could become a slave to gluttony, to food, or you could become a slave to pride, to vanity, or in this case, you become a slave to your lusts. And so you do things that any rational person knows is completely insane. You damage your life. You become a national laughingstock like all of these guys have. You lose your career. For what? To do some embarrassing, degrading action on camera for other people? How sad. And how pathetic is it? How pathetic is it for us as a country that we have to talk about sex this much? The libs will say, why are the conservatives so obsessed with sex? We're not the ones filming this stuff in the Capitol. We're not the ones picking up random dudes while we're press secretary for Jill Biden. We're not the ones changing all the sexual rules, trying to redefine marriage, trying to put dudes in the women's bathroom, trying to put porn in the hands of kindergartners. We're not doing that. We're the ones saying, hey, whoa, chill, man. It's the libs who are the aggressors in the sexual revolution. It's the libs who are the aggressors in the culture war. And it's pathetic. It's very shameful for them, and it's annoying for us that we, a once great nation, supposedly the global hegemon, have to spend all of our time talking about genitals. It's ridiculous. It's sad. It's pathetic. There are other things in the world. And if we want to be a great nation again, we're going to need to focus on some of those things. But you can't focus on those things when your brain is so melted by porn that in our nation's capital, we have to spend our time investigating who is filming pornography in the Senate hearing room. Or we need to spend time investigating what really is a man and what really is a woman so that we can have a national debate over whether dudes should be allowed into your little daughter's bathroom at a public pool. Pathetic. No nation will be great if that is what we have to do. But the problem is you do have to address some of these things, because if we don't understand basic facts of life, if we can't agree on basic facts of human nature, we can't have a polity. We can't talk to one another. We can't deliberate. We can't even speak. We don't even speak the same language anymore. And if we don't overcome our most basic appetites and passions, then we won't be capable of rational thought or a rational will or being a great nation. Absolutely pathetic. Man, what a great clip that was now. Whoa, hold up. Ring that bell. Subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. And we will see you next time.